You must acknowledge that what our profession was doing was wrong. Hello, I am Mark Seiden, the team leader and broker for the Mark Seiden Real Estate team in Westchester County, New York. I have successfully signed buyers to exclusive right to represent agreements, which include a minimum commission obligation since prior to 2010. So I know you don't want to hear this, but the DOJ, the consumers, and the lawsuits are all correct. Our profession is dead wrong. I've been professing for decades that our profession has been screwing over the real estate consumers regarding disclosure of commissions. There, I said it again. And more than that, you must stop listening to all our organization's big wigs in these huge real estate corporations, associations, mega brokers, organizations, lawyers, etc. when they say that everyone is out to get us real estate agents because we're easy pickings. No, that's not true. It's just everyone high up in those organizations just want to find scapegoats to defend themselves to keep their jobs when they were the ones leading us down the wrong path all those years. There, I said it yet again. So here it is. It's your fork in the road. You can fight it and lose, or you can learn to work within it and succeed. So first things first, you must acknowledge that what our profession was doing was wrong to the consumers. And you need to understand why all this happened before you learn how to change your ways. To be able to absorb what to do in the future, you must understand the past. So here's the past. First, a disclaimer. I am not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice. I'm a real estate agent. Second disclaimer. I'm based in New York State, so my experience and explanations of law as I understand it and process will be based on New York State rules, regulations, and agency law. The laws and regulations of other states and MLSs may or may not apply. Okay, here we go. Great transitions and how our agent works with consumers have occurred in the past. In New York State, buyer representation became popular in the mid-1990s. And when that first started, many agents and brokerages were in revolt and refused to actually recognize buyer agents and their offers, which was against the law. In the end, though, many of those agents had to leave the business, and the brokerages who fought the buyer agency trend lost huge market share and ended up closing or selling to other brokerages. And in addition, there were many professional standard reviews against agents due to those agents not changing with the times. Those agents were shown to have breached their ethical standards of practice, and some agents were even threatened to be sued for breach of their fiduciary duties. Now, about 30 years later, how prevalent is buyer agency in our transactions? So I guess radical change can succeed and not shut down our industry, huh? So here we go. How did we get here today with this conundrum? Okay. In New York State prior to the 1990s, agents represented the seller on both sides of the transaction. Basically, agents who took out buyers did not represent the buyers. Those agents represented the sellers. Therefore, the seller paid the entire commission on the transaction because everyone represented the seller. Well, that makes sense, right? But that type of transaction where everyone represents the seller is a whole other discussion at another time on how much that system of everyone representing just the seller failed severely, basically screwing both the seller and the buyer consumers at the same time. That'll be another video. The challenge was most buyers really didn't know or understand they weren't being represented. So then starting about in the early 1990s, New York State mandated written agency disclosure, whereby the agent taking around the buyers actually had to disclose in writing that the agent represented the other side, the seller. Yeah, that spawned the introduction to buyer agents in New York State, especially in our area just north of New York City in the mid-1990s. However, the challenge was the commissions to the agents who represented the buyer were still paid by the seller. And this is where everything fell apart. The dilemma. Buyers who were represented by an agent who has fiduciary duties to the buyers had no say as to the compensation that the buyers were paying to their own agent for representation. The challenge is the amount of the commission paid by the sellers impacts the sales prices of the properties the buyers were purchasing. And the buyers had no say in that matter. Commissions were determined only by the seller and the listing agent. Why? What's been kept an industry secret by our associations is that all consumers have rights to determine the compensation due to their own representation, because that compensation does impact the price of the home, the buyer's cash flow to buy a house, the seller's cash flow to sell a house, and the monthly mortgage cash flow of the buyer consumer. And since that is the plain old truth, that's why agents will now have signed a buyer's agreement with each buyer, because a buyer has the right to determine the rate of pay that buyer wants to pay for the representation the consumer receives from the agent and the brokerage. And sellers should only pay out what they feel they want to pay out for representation, and marketing of their homes. Yeah, it's that simple. Consumers have rights. So now they are demanding we give them what we've denied them as an industry for all those decades and decades. Those being represented by agents have a right to decide how much they are willing to pay for the type of representation they want, especially since how much they pay impacts the price the buyer pays for the home or how much the seller nets in the sale. So how is that not fair to the consumer? For more, go to welcometothecommissionrevolution.com or click the link in my bio and watch my informational and bio videos, and please like my videos and subscribe to and share my channel as well. Thank you.